to today's workshop. I'm Rachel, I'm a vocal feminization coach, and I've spent around about the last 4 years now helping people to find their voices. My voice was not always here, and I know how much of a big and impossible task this can feel at times, but trust me, if I can do it, you can do it. My voice originally was, right the way down here, and I thought, yeah, no way, I'm going to be able to end up somewhere that I'm happy with things, but we can do so much with voice, and it's my job today to try and help some different volunteers out. What we're going to do is go through a brief safety introduction, just going over some of the things to look out for any newcomers and for our recordings as well. And then we're going to go through some of the basic terms that we're going to be looking at and getting some crowd involvement in some different exercises to be able to explore these 3 main things that we're looking at in vocal feminization. After that, we're going to go through 10-minute different intervals with different volunteers. I'll set a timer. You can come up on stage and we'll be able to work through wherever it is that you are with your voice journey at the minute. Now, please do know that this is a vocal feminization only class today. If you are looking for masculinization or androgenization, you can find more about that with Jess's classes on Fridays and Saturdays, I think they are now, but check the notices on the Discord. And you can also see more about just general voice modulation with Savvy as well, who takes the class every other Sunday, alternating with myself. So just a quick show of hands. I can see a few familiar faces, but who has been here before to one of these different classes? Yes. Awesome. About the majority of us today. Cool. And who is here for their first time today? Awesome. Cool. Still a good number of you. Great. Okie doke. So for those of you who have been through some of the safety stuff before, I do apologize. We'll try and keep it as brief as we can, but I think it's so important. And also, I want to thank you all for your feedback on our services that we have here at the Academy as well. It's really helped me to be able to see how we can best shape what we do going forward. So I think there is still some time. If you look on the notices to fill in the feedback form, we'd appreciate that. But yeah, thank you to everyone who's done it so far as well. So with safety, the first thing is that nothing that we do should hurt, okay? If you have any sort of pain, be it a sudden kind of sharp pain or a building ache, when you're practicing, after you've practiced, or just generally throughout your day with your voice, neck or throat, please do stop what you're doing and give it a bit of a break for at least 24 hours and then come back to it later. No pain, no gain does definitely not apply with voice stuff here. So if you feel any pain, please do stop. Give it a rest. And if that pain keeps on reoccurring, it's a sign that something isn't going to plan. And it could be a great idea to book in with a voice coach like myself or Jess or Savvy here at the team or any other qualified voice coach as well. So with this as well, if you find that you've got any sort of change in the way that your voice feels or it functions, again, I would like you to stop what you're doing and let somebody know that can help you. So some things that can change in the voice. If you find that your voice is suddenly really weak and hoarse, no good. If you find that it's really shaky and hard to use, no good. If you find that it's got kind of a gritty quality to it that it didn't have before, again, no good. If you find that you can't get as high or as low or as loud or as quiet as you once have been able to do, all of these different things can be signs that something isn't going to plan. Or if it just generally feels different without you doing anything different yourself, that can be a sign that something might be up. As well, if you do find that your voice sounds generally gritty or hoarse, or it's difficult to use or uncomfortable before using voice training, this is also something to keep an eye on as well. Okie doke. None of my students so far have had any sort of vocal complications, and touch wood, I hope everyone here finds that to be the same as well. So some other things to look out for as well. There are some things that can very much help us. Keeping hydrated is number one. A really big one, though, is avoiding cigarettes, alcohol, vaping as well. Although vaping is sometimes offered as a safer alternative, it really does affect the voice, especially those high nicotine vapes. So do try and avoid those if you can. Excessive caffeine is another one. And if you are on spironolactone, be sure to keep nice and hydrated generally as well. And that can all really, really help. If you are sick, it's best not to practice. Just give it a rest and come back to it a little bit later. And I think that's about it, really. Oh, one more thing. If you find that you're throat clearing consistently, that's no good. Try and prevent yourself from throat clearing, especially as a habit. We don't want to use that as a reset. If you find you've got acid reflux, that can make the voice more difficult to use. All things to consider. But the main thing is listen to your body. We don't want to push or force anything here. Okie doke. So before we move on, I want to have a quick show of hands. If anybody has any questions on safety at all, if you can jump up and down for me or give me a little bit of a wave or an emoji, I'll be able to see you there. Is that a question down here? Nope, no worries. I think we are all good to move along. Now, throughout the session today, we will be pausing to take questions, and this is not just for the people here at the Academy itself in VRC, but also on Twitch and on Discord as well. So both of these chats are going to be monitored. Please do feel free to type your questions in there, and we'll get to them when we can as well. Perfect. Okie doke. So let's get into some of the fundamentals with voice work and a few different exercises that we're going to be using as well. So I'd love it if someone can raise a hand and tell me what's one of the main things that we're going to be looking at here with vocal feminization. Does anybody know? You can jump up and down or raise your hand, please, for me. Yes, Lily Abyss, hello. What's one of these variables?
Resonance?
Absolutely. Resonance is a big one. Spot on. What can you tell me about resonance, please, Lily?
I don't actually know that much about it, though. It's
No
one
problem.
Thing that's
No
really
problem
hard
at
for
all.
me.
No worries. Thank you for being brave and honest with that one there. And I find that's the case with a lot of people that I talk to in my practice. Resonance can be pretty tricky to get a hold of. It's also known as size, depending on some different vocal teachers' kind of methods. But resonance, size, timbre, this is all wrapped up together now. A quick show of hands. Who is like dead confident with resonance? That like, yes, I know it inside and out. I'm pretty happy with it. Not many of us. Cool. Who are like, I've got no idea whatsoever. This is a whole new thing for me, and oh, no idea. Cool. A few of us. Who's feeling like they're starting to make progress with it, but they're not maybe all the way there? Cool. Awesome. And who's feeling that maybe they know about the theory, but the practical exercises are what's kind of eluding them at the minute? Yeah, a few of us again. Awesome. Okie doke. So resonance, it's a big, complicated word, I know, but it's all about how size affects sound. So sound is very, very much alive. It will take on the characteristics of whatever container it finds itself within. So for example, if I grab this glass over here and if I, hello, 1, 2, 3, if I talk into the glass, you can hear that my voice gets kind of glass shaped almost. If I cut my hands and if I talk through my hands, again, the sound will change quite a bit. Now, in our body, we've got a fair bit of space that our sound is traveling through. And I'm going to put this on the screen here. Can everybody see this diagram, this power source filter model on the screen at the minute? If you can wave your hands if you can see it. Beautiful. Okay, so this is a conceptual model for how sound is produced, and we can apply this to any sort of instrument, a guitar, a tuba, a piano. All of them will have a power and a source and a filter. Power is where we have the kinetic energy that drives the sound. So for a drum, it'll be the person hitting the drum. For a guitar, it's a person plucking the string. And for us with our voice, it's going to be the breath from down below. That breath moves on up through our lungs, up our trachea, and it reaches this little spot here, the voice box, the larynx. And that's our sound source. This is where our vocal folds begin to produce the sound by coming together and vibrating. So the sound source in the guitar, that would be your string. In a piano, again, the string. In a tuba or a brass instrument, that would be the mouthpiece and your lips resonating on that and moving around, vibrating on it rather. And then we have after that the filter. Now this filter here is where that sound is going to bounce around. And as it bounces off of the wall of that filter, the sound will be amplified, it'll be changed, its characteristic will really develop. So for us, our filter is all of this stuff here. Our throat, which I've called R1, our mouth space, which is our R2, and lips, R3. R is standing for resonant chamber. Each one of these, R1 throat, R2 mouth, and R3 lips, each one will have a different effect onto the voice. We can also think of the nose, the nasal cavity, as like an R4, and this is probably the worst R I've ever drawn. But we can think about the nose as R4, but I haven't put it on here because nasality doesn't necessarily have a huge amount to do with gender. We can have voices that are nasal, not so nasal. They can still sound great, he, him, or she, her with the voices. So with the stuff here, Let's take a little look. R1 is our... I'm terrible at drawing these lines today. I don't know if it's me or my controllers. But R1 is the main one for gender. What happens is this space in purple will get longer and wider in a T-based puberty. Okay, I think it was Ingo Tietze that wrote that this will be moving up to 20 to 25%, I think it is, greater in volume than it is before puberty. So it's a really, really big change. With this change, the sound will have a different characteristic. Okay, so we describe resonance in terms of dark and bright. A very big chamber will make a big, bassy, dark sort of sound, and a smaller chamber will make a bright sound. Okay, so for example, if I go to this note over here, let me just grab my app here. So I'm using an F3 for this example. Now, this is going to be at 175 hertz-ish. This is a very dark sound. Hello. The space in my throat is really, really big. 1, 2, 3. Now what I'm gonna do is make the space smaller and smaller and smaller. Again. Hello. 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 Now that's different from pitch. It's all on the same note, but you can hear that the gender of the voice massively, massively changed. And this is what resonance is all about. Building awareness of this sound, being able to control this more, and to be able to shrink the space down so that it sounds like it would before a T-based puberty. We're undoing the effects of testosterone pretty much in a way that is comfortable, sustainable, and manageable. So let's have a little bit of an exercise here to test everyone's hearing. What I want to do with you all is to see if you can all come into the middle if you'd like to take part in this practical exercise. If you would not, if you can please go to one of the corners, that would be great. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at telling the difference between pitch and resonance and also bright and dark sounds. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to go to this note, I'm going to play a note, I'm going to go to it, and I'm going to move between two different sounds. Over here on my left-hand side, your right-hand side, this is going to be if the sound is darker, more bassy, more masculine, more boomy, bigger throat space. And over here on my right is going to be if the sound is brighter. Okay, so have a listen and tell me, is the sound getting darker on my left or brighter on my right? Here we go. So here's the first one. Hello. Hello. Which way do we think that's going? Be brave as well. Here it is once more. Hello. Hello. And most of you are absolutely right. Spot on. Perfect. That was indeed getting darker. These will get harder as we go. Let's go back into the middle and do a few more of these here. So I'm going to choose a new note. I'm going to have another little listen here. E. E. Now that was a more subtle change, but which way do you think it was going? E. E. And you're all absolutely right. Spot on. Voice crack. You're all absolutely right. That was getting brighter indeed. Let's come back into the middle and let's do a few more of these here. I'm going to go up to this higher note now. Oh. Oh. Now that was a bit of a subtler one. Where do we feel that we're going? Oh. Oh, yes, it was darker. Perfect. Well done, everyone. If you come back into the middle, beautiful. We'll do one more of these. Now, this time, I'm going to go to a note that is outside of a typically feminine range. It'll sound a little bit different here. Let's have a listen. Yo. Yo. All right. So a little bit different there. What's that sounding like? Is it getting darker or brighter? Yo. Yo. And you're all absolutely right. That was getting brighter indeed. Fantastic. Perfect. So the thing to know here with resonance is it's like polish. It won't change what the raw material is. You know, it's like if we're trying to use a bright resonance in a pitch that is too low, it's like trying to polish up mud. We're not going to get a mirror finish. We're not going to get that femininity. But if we do it in a note that's in a feminine range, I would say past the C sharp 3-ish, great. We can get that polish up, and it's like polishing brass or silver. We get a lovely shine. We can get that sounding great. All right, so next little thing, we're going to take a look at separating pitch and resonance. So pitch is another one of these big three things that we have here. And this is one of the more intuitive ones. This is all about how high or how low the voice is. So I would say that we should be aiming for an average of maybe like an E3 to a G sharp 3 as your where you're spending most of your time with feminine voices. It'd be great to get highs of around about a B3, C4. That's perfectly fine. If you can go higher, great. And the lowest we want to go is probably about C sharp 3, C3-ish. Okay. Now with hertz, I would say lowest is about 120, 130. There's a lot of leeway. Average, I would say anywhere between 160 to about 220. There's a lot of variance. And highs, let's say anywhere between like 260 to 300. That's some great places to aim for in your voice. But taking a look at this here, I'm going to give you a bit of a voice change. Now, if I'm changing pitch, I want you to come over to this side on my left, okay? If I'm changing resonance instead, I want you to come over to my right. So pitch on my left, resonance on my right. I won't do both at the same time. Let's have a little bit of a go at this. Here we go. E. What's that? A resonance, a pitch, do we think? Beautiful work, everyone. That was indeed resonance. Spot on. Let's do a few more. Oh. Now, do we feel that was the resonance of space getting bigger, or was it the pitch? And absolutely right. Spot on. That was the pitch. Great. Let's do a few more. And this one's a little bit tricky. Go with what you think it might be. I see a few people in the middle. Ooh. Great. It was pitch, absolutely. So what I did there was I stayed dark on both notes. But the pitch moved. Beautiful. Let's do just one more here. What do we feel is changing there? Is it pitch or resonance? And you're all absolutely right. That was resonance. Woo, perfect. And if you go find your seats to me, you did absolutely excellent. If you can give yourselves a big round of applause, please. You nailed that. Thank you so much. Woo. So with this stuff here, it takes some time to get used to it. If you weren't too confident with that stuff, it's all okay. It's a skill, just like anything else, but you can get better and better and better with it. So we've shown some differences in resonance and pitch, and we've described resonance as dark and bright, but I would like to hear some words from the crowd as to what you think it sounds like for yourself. Would you describe it as like bassy versus trebly or masc and femme? If anybody's got any interest in the script as to how they hear resonance, I would love to hear it. If you can just jump up and down or raise your hand for me if you feel like sharing. Nope. We might be a little bit shy today, no problem. Cool. So some other things that I've heard for this are that resonance sounds bassier, boomier. It sounds like it's more throaty. I've heard people describe it as it being more backwards and more chesty. And then brighter resonances being more forwards, more glassy, more clear, more bell-like, more kind of ringy. All these things are great descriptors. Perfect. So we've talked about pitch. We've talked about resonance. Can anybody tell me one more thing that we are looking for here? And if you can raise your hand for me. And Vivian, hello. I saw you right away there.
Vocal weight.
Vocal weight, absolutely spot on. What can you tell me about vocal weight, please, Vivian?
I think what I do know is that more vocal weight, you'll feel it more in your chest compared to higher, you'll feel it more in your face, I think.
You're close, but not quite right. So what you're talking about there is these vibrations, and what is definitely true is that with a heavier vocal weight, you're more likely to feel a greater strength of vibrations, but the position of those vibrations, be they in the chest or more in the throat or the face or the nose, is more about resonance. But I can see where you're coming from, and great answer. The first part, though, absolutely. So vocal weight is all about the amount of oomph and drive and buzz within the voice. If you find that in your vocal training, this is an aesthetic that we're getting into where it sounds like, we're hitting the right pitches, it's sounding bright, but it's got this kind of buzzy, brassy edge to it, rather than it being kind of more like this at the minute, your problem could be having too much of a heavy vocal weight, okay? Often when we try and get to higher pitches or we try and change our resonance, we can sometimes accidentally get a bit heavier. And it's a really nice way that I like to do with you all to be able to explore this. I want to imagine a really cute animal in your hands. It's going to be absolutely adorable. On the count of 3, I want you all to give me a really nice, really soft, aww, Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1, and please. Beautiful. Yes, it's soft, it's light, it's powdery, perfect. Now imagine this animal, whatever it may be, but it's just thrown up all over you. It's absolutely grim. There are chunks. It's terrible. I want you all to give me a nice, heavy yes. On the count of 3. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, and please. Oh, I think we can get heavier. It's because it's so great. Let's give it one more. Please. One more time. 3, 2, 1, and really heavy. Yes. Much better. Perfect. Thank you so much. So we can feel this. It's got more vibration going on in our side of our throats, in our bodies, and it comes across as this kind of heavier, sharper kind of sound. This is what we're looking to get rid of. We want a lighter vocal weight. The reason for this is that when we have a low voice, to get that engine moving,
we have to get quite a bit of vocal weight, hello, to produce the voice. If I try and do this with a light vocal weight, like how I normally speak, hello,
it's very difficult to maintain the sound physically. So we're used to driving this engine with a lot of buzz, a lot of oomph, a lot of gusto, but we want to soften that out to get a more femme sounding voice overall. Beautiful. Now, one thing we missed was talking about R2 and R3. We want to shrink the throat, make the mouth space a little bit smaller, adjust that to taste, and then get the lips out of the way. And that's how we're going to do some resonance stuff here. But all really, really, really good. Now, let's take a look at getting our first volunteer up on the stage. Now, we've covered the basics. I want to get as many people as I can on stage. Now, for this to work, if you're wanting to volunteer, what I would like you to do, please, is to go into your settings in your small menu, please, your microphone settings. I want you to make sure that noise suppression is turned off, please, for me, that you have your mic activation threshold all the way down to the left, that your microphone behavior is on toggle, and then that should be everything. Oh, and your mic output volume, let's put it up to 100 just to make sure that we can really hear you with everything. So again, noise suppression off, threshold all the way down, mic on toggle, and put the output volume nice and high there for us. Okie doke. So for our first volunteer, I'd like you to please raise your hand if you'd like to come on stage and take a little look at working with me, see where you are at the minute. And Emily, I saw you jumping up and down really quick there. If you'd like to come on stage, please, for me, that would be great. Alrighty. And let me just go ahead and grab this timer real quick. Hello. Okay. Okie doke. And Emily, there's quite a bit of background noise on your mic. I'm just going to ask politely that if you can keep it muted just while you're not talking, please. That would be brilliant. Yeah, but thanks so much. No worries, you're totally fine. So welcome on stage. Can you tell me a little bit about your voice journey so far and how things have been, please?
I've been lurking around like the Discord for around 3 months, but just now got the courage to come up stage. So
awesome, great to have you up here.
I've done
Sorry, go ahead.
Training. I have a voice, I guess.
Awesome. Can you maybe demonstrate a little bit of that voice for us if you're not feeling too shy? I know it can be like, very nerve-wracking. But could you maybe demonstrate by reading that first line on the screen? When the sunlight strikes raindrops in the air, they act as a prism and form a rainbow. And take your time whenever you're ready. Go for it.
When the sunlight strikes raindrops in the air, they act as a prism and form a rainbow. The rainbow is a division of white light into many beautiful colors. These take the shape of a long, round arc, with its path high above, and its two ends apparently beyond the horizon.
Beautiful work. I can tell you're doing a lot of things right there. It's much bouncier than what your baseline speech sounded like, and you're hitting much higher highs. I feel as though that with pitch overall, you're doing a lot of really, really good stuff, but we want to kind of shift this whole thing a little bit higher up again. So you're doing lots of lovely stuff with your variation. And I think as well that your voice is sounding softer than it does otherwise. Your vocal weight is a step in the right direction. Resonance feels like it's missing a little bit, but we'll take a look at pitch first and we'll see how that's all feeling for you. Now, to help you with this here, I want to see if we can go on ahead and match your pitch real quick, just to kind of remap where your voice is wanting to sit. So I'm going to play this note here, and what I would like you to do with a nice soft sound is glide on up to the note until you feel like you've gotten it. Have a listen to this. Can you give that a go, please, for me? Perfect. Good. Here's the next one, going a little bit higher up this time. And try and keep your voice soft, soft, soft as you do. You're almost there. It's a smidge higher. Try again. Beautiful. Okay, let's do one more here. Well done. Perfect. Really, really nice. You're getting to an A3 all the way at 220 hertz. That's fantastic. Now, I know I said one more, but out of curiosity, I want to see if we can really send it and try and reach for that C4. Have a listen to this, please, for me, and see if you can match me. Your turn when you're ready. Good job, and you're hitting it. Perfect. It felt like it took a little bit more effort. That one on a scale of 1 to 10, how effortful did that feel for you? Well, like 1 is super duper easy, and 10 was like, oh my god, that was almost impossible.
Around 7, I would say.
Yeah, totally. That's a really, really, really nice foundation. Super, super good. To help you get that from a 7 down to a 5 or a 4 and use that more, take a look at the SOVTE lecture that I've got on the VODs channel at the Trans Academy. But for now, your pitch matching is excellent and you've got a great range, so I'm not too worried. But what I want to do is start to feel what it's like for you to speak at a higher average. When we are talking about pitch, there are some different things that are important to us. One of them we've talked about, the bounciness of the pitch, the kind of journey that your voice is taking. You're doing great with that. You're moving around really beautifully. We also have the highs of the voice, how high we're going and how low we're going. For me, I feel as though we can get some higher highs in, and I want to edit some of those lower sounds out. We're going a little bit too low on the floor. The final thing we're looking at is the place where you spend the most time. Because if I'm moving around with my voice and I just kind of keep on coming down to this note, which is totally legal within the kind of range of things, but I'm spending most of my time down here, that can start to give the impression to a listener that this is a voice that's hard to use for us. So we're going to try and establish a higher average for you. Now, your range has been really good, so we're going to go to a G3 here. G3 is pretty much on where this woman's average voice pitch is, according to a few different studies. So what I would like you to do for me, please, Emily, is again, match me with a nice sound, gliding up, just as so. Can you give me another one of those, please? Beautiful. Thank you so much. Now we're halfway through our time, so we're going to speed on along. What I want to do next is I want to read through this text here in a monotone way to start to get your brain recognizing this new pitch as a place where you want to stay. It's going to sound like this. When the sunlight strikes raindrops in the air. Try just that first bit, keeping your pitch totally flat, sounding like a bit of a robot. And again, the pitch once more. Is just there. When you're ready, take it away.
When the sunlight strikes raindrops in the air, they act as a prism and form a rainbow.
No, it was nice and flat, but it wasn't quite as high as we wanted it to be. Let's go a little bit higher up. Have another listen. When the sunlight strikes. Try that again, please, for me.
When the sunlight strikes the raindrops in the air.
So close. You hit it when you went up, but you went, when the sunlight strikes, right back down. So let's try it together. We're going to go again here. And now what I want you to do is just take the word when. We're going to match it, gliding up. When, please, when you're ready.
When.
So close, a little higher. When. You've got it, perfect. Now we're going to do when the
sun.
You've got it, yes. Keep going. Oh no, you're great. Okay, one more time. Go all the way to air. You had it. When the sunlight, take it away.
When the sunlight strikes raindrops in the air, they act as
Great
a prism
work.
and form a rainbow.
Beautiful. Keep going with the next line. The rainbow is a division of white light.
The rainbow is a division of white light into many beautiful colors. These take
Good.
the shape of a long round arc, with its path high above and its two ends apparently beyond the horizon.
Beautifully done. Absolutely. Good, good, good. Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, how is that feeling for you? Oh, excuse me. How is that feeling for you?
Around like 5, because I'm not used to it.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds to me like it's more of a case of you mentally not being used to it and just a little bit of coordination rather than it being like, oh, this is really tricky. Beautiful work. Okay, what I want to do now is we're going to go through this once more, going all the way to colors. And then on the last one, these take the shape. We're going to start to move our voice up and down in tiny little itty bitty baby steps, not letting ourselves get too high or too low. So the whole thing will sound like this. When the sunlight strikes raindrops in the air, they act as a prism and form a rainbow. The rainbow is a division of white light into many beautiful colors. Here's the hard bit. These take the shape of a long round arch with its path high above and its two ends apparently beyond the horizon. Moving it around, it might not sound completely like proper, but that's what we're looking for, just to stop you from falling off into that cliff. So when you're ready, take it away, please, Emily. And that note again is just here.
When the sunlight strikes raindrops in the air, they act as a prism and form a rainbow. The rainbow is a division of white light into many beautiful colors. These take the shape of a long, round arc with its path high above the horizon. Oh,
Beautiful
I
work.
got lost.
We ended up being, it's okay, you did great. We ended up being just a little bit below that target note, but it was still sounding good. Now, on this next one here, with an eye in the time, we're going to race ahead and we're going to try and get that bounciness back in. We're going to do that first line, when the sunlight strikes, all the way to rainbow. Then I want you to really bring some of that lovely bouncy inflection that you had before back in. So something like this. When the sunlight strikes raindrops in the air, they act as a prism and form a rainbow. The rainbow is a division of white light, moving it around after that. Take it away.
When the sunlight strikes...
All good. Try again.
When the sunlight strikes raindrops in the air, they act as a prism and form a rainbow. The rainbow is a division of white light into many beautiful colors.
Now moving it
take the shape
around.
of a long round arc with its path high above and its two ends apparently beyond the horizon.
Lovely work. Perfect. Really, really, really good. And that's just us about up to time. But what I think will really, really help you here in getting this pitch fundamentally down and getting even more control is having something like a pitch tracker available to you. Now, what I like to use with my students is voice tools on your phone. That can be really, really handy. But I also like to use that's our time. Let me get rid of that. I also like to use some other software. I like to use Friture. Friture. You can find it at friture.org. And that's a spectrogram where you can start to see your voice more in real time. But you do need to change the settings a little bit. We need to change the settings to a logarithmic scale rather than a what it's set to by default. So maybe stick with the voice tools app first. There's also loads of different pitch tracking apps available. But what you want to be doing, Emily, is staying with an average of around about 190 or 180 to 200 hertz. Start to get used to that feeling of reading monotone there. Go back to it, go back to it, go back to it. And you'll start to develop an internal kind of North Star for where your voice should be. After that, we can start to look at reintegrating those highs and moving around and getting that same lovely inflection, that bounciness that you demonstrated at the start of our time together, back into the voice in a new kind of range. Essentially, if we were to look at this with a drawing, let's take a little look here, what we're looking for. If we would say that this is like a kind of crude graph, this is time on the x-axis, pitch on the y-axis. Now I would say that your voice that you started off with today would be something perhaps like this. It was moving around lovely, very bouncy, very nice. Okay. What we want instead is to keep that bounce, to keep that loveliness, but we're going to move it on up. Let's say that up here is that 200 mark. We're going to have lots of time up there and start to have that sort of shape where we have the floor of the voice being higher than it was in the original and the average a little bit higher up as well. Having that pitch work done first is going to really help you for when you come to integrate and work on getting this voice softer and brighter. For now, get that pitch work down. Pitch matching is great and your voice production overall is really good, but I think that's where you can continue to develop. And great work. Do you have any questions on the back of all this today? No questions, Emily?
Oh, no, sorry.
You did great.
No questions.
Sorry.
Right,
No questions
thanks.
then. No?
No questions.
No problem. Can everyone give Emily a big round of applause, please? You nailed it. Thank you so much. Woo! Great work. Awesome. For me, in the hierarchy of things to start to sort out and look at with voice, I really think that sound production and pitch access is really, really fundamental. There's an emerging narrative in a lot of different trans voice spaces that is it's kind of reactionary against the way that voice has been traditionally. When trans voice work was more of the domain of speech and language pathologists, I'm talking about from the 80s up until about the 2010s, it was really, really focused on pitch, very pitch centric, talking about inflection patterns and average pitch, but not taking into consideration things like vocal weight and resonance, which are tremendously, tremendously powerful. Now, since then, there's been a big kind of backlash as trans people have started to control the narrative of voice work a little bit more and what is being impactful in their own experiences. But I think that this backlash is kind of overextended to the point at which that I hear from a lot of people, pitch isn't very important. And for me, pitch and sound production and the relationship between your power and source is one of the things that is so fundamental to getting a sound that is flowy, that sounds free, doesn't sound pushed, that is healthy. For me, it's the bread and butter of voice work. And so I really implore you all to do take a look to see what you can do. Be hungry for more. If you can hit those 260s, 280s, excellent. Make sure that your pitch matching is on point, that we can do so without squeezing and pushing, and that you have conscious control over where your voice is going. Some other exercises that can really help here are mimicry, by playing someone's voice that you like and putting it into a pitch tracker or a spectrogram, and then copying those same curves and flows of pitch while maintaining a comfy and balanced aesthetic. That's going to be so powerful for you, and it's going to build your awareness and build your fundamental skills so that your voice doesn't end up like kind of dropping over time. That's the thing that I see so often. It's so preventable by getting to work with the foundations. But really, really good work, Emily. Now, I want to open up for questions for a little bit. I'd like to ask, do we have any questions on our online streams, first of all?
We do not have any questions right now on Twitch or Discord, so...
No worries. Please do type them away. We'll come back to them as soon as we can. But I'd love to open up the floor to general questions as well before we get on to our next volunteer. So I'm going to start from this side over here. If you can please raise your hand or jump up and down, please, for me. That would be great. And Lily, hello. What's your question?
Oh, I thought we were I didn't realize this was about questions. I thought it was about volunteering.
Sorry. This is all just Q&A for now, but we'll come back to volunteers in a sec. But thank you. Carlos, hello. What's your question?
I heard somebody say before that a good way of feminizing your voice is to attempt to throw. Sorry.
No problem.
Is to throw your voice when you're talking it, not pull it back, but to throw it. So that
Okay.
I don't know the exact science behind it. I was wondering if you knew, perhaps.
Yeah, for sure. So you said kind of have it back and throw it. Can you use any other descriptors for me that you might have heard with this sort of methodology, please?
Well, I'm going to take my hand here. I'm throwing it right now. I'm trying to exhale the air as fast as I can at it. But I can go a bit further back. And, well, one, it's really difficult to do this. Two, it's given me a weird accent.
Sure.
I can go even further back, and it becomes very deep. And then I can throw it from there, and then it becomes super breathy, doing it back and forth like that.
Gotcha. Thank you. So with that, I feel as though there's a lot of different things going on that are wrapped up together. Part of it was when you're talking about the forwards and backwards kind of placement and sensation of the voice. That's all of our resonance stuff. And when we kind of envision our voice as a ball of light within our body, that when we are in a dark resonance, although it feels very far backwards, we can envision it maybe here or within the tummy. And then as we start to bring it forwards, hello, 1, 2, 3, we can start to envision that sound moving from back down here to a more forwards position. That's one of the things that people might mean by throw. I've also heard something similar when you were talking about aiming here and then aiming out here with your voice. And that's more to do with projection training, with kind of getting volume back into the voice if we are doing public speaking or if we are in a noisy environment, when we envision where the voice is hitting, like it's right here or it's right there, or it's right at the back of the room, I'm aiming it. That can be much more about projection and cutting through the noise. You also talked a little bit about the feeling of kind of like breath on the on your hand, and you also talked about kind of getting as much air through as you can. Now, I would say that it's a good idea to try and refrain from getting as much throughput of air as possible. But I have seen this exercise of, and I've used it before, being mindful of the breath on the hand and making sure that there's enough air coming through. That when we are going to be using a brighter resonance, a higher voice, a lighter vocal weight, all these different things together will require more air pressure from down below. And this can be a nice kind of awareness builder to be able to get people to lock in to what they're doing with their resources effectively. So I would say with that exercise, there's a lot of different things going on. With exercises, I think it's so important that when we try them out, we kind of treat them like a science experiment. I think there's a common misconception, and I can totally understand why, with exercises that we repeat a thing again and again, and then in an effort to get better, because this applies to a lot of different endeavors, right? If we are trying to get bigger muscles, we'll just see like, I don't know, bicep curls. I'm not a gym gal, squats or whatever, repetitive movements to be able to allow the muscles to be able to reorganize and to strengthen. Absolutely. With voice, however, exercises are more about awareness, attention, trying different things out and being able to use them almost as experiments. And for that reason, we want to think, why are we doing this with each different exercise? So that one with the hand, great, to making sure that we're getting enough air out. Okay. That one with aiming the voice, projection, great. Feeling it, being aware of resonance. SOVTE is great for being able to explore, balancing your power and source to get notes that are higher and more sustainable. Whenever you're doing an exercise, never do an exercise just because someone says you to do it or because without really knowing why. Because without that, the kind of scientific and experimental nature of these different exercises, of you changing variables, is lost. And I would say that voice is much more of a dexterity thing than a strength thing, right? It's much more about crafting a collection of different movements and just finding the just right spots rather than it is doing a thing to get really strong, get better at it, and then have a better voice at the end. So big answer. I hope that helps. But I would say the final thing, be careful with throwing voices as well, using a lot of force, just to make sure you're on the safe side. But thank you so much for your question. I'm going to move over to another question over here on the left side. Does anybody have any questions over here? Please do jump up and down or raise your hands if you've got any questions there for me. That'd be great. No, not so much coming into the middle. Any questions here? Oh, CMDR. Hello. Is that a question? Just to double check. Yes. Hello. What's your question, please? Hello.
A lot of feedback I get is I hit M2 a lot. Is there a way to help manage that?
Okay, cool. Definitely. I mean, like, I think for that to help, I'd really like to work with you to make sure that that is the thing, because sometimes I see people being like, haha, this is a lot of M2, but it might not be that that's the most pressing thing. I'll come back to you in just a little bit, though. That's a really interesting thing that I haven't had the chance to talk about much. We'll come back to you in a sec. Any other questions in the crowd or online, please, as well? No.
One sec, some technical stuff. There is a question online.
Perfect.
Someone was asking. Let me find it really quick. My goal is to have a low fem voice. Should I aim for a higher pitch when practicing so I naturally have a lower pitch while relaxed?
Cool. That can be great to be able to aim above and then see where you can land. I think that that's a really good thing to have generally. Having headroom is beautiful. With vocal weight, with resonance, if you can get brighter than you need to, then it's going to be a lot comfier for you otherwise. I would say that a combination is going to be good. I think that if you're having problems with your pitch kind of drifting too far down and it's kind of just dropping off, or you've got problems with end of sentences or just general lows that you feel are happening without your consent, absolutely, that's a good thing to do. If, on the other hand, you find that you're able to kind of stay in this voice pretty well, and it's more about crafting the aesthetic, that if something feels off in the sound overall, I would say then kind of practice within your designated pitch range, For me, with these kind of lower voices, I feel as though that a big thing is making sure that despite the fact that they're hitting lower, is to really make sure that we still have some lovely highs in there. We can spend more time at a lower average, keep that softness in there. We can adjust our resonance too, because when we're adjusting our pitch and resonance come hand in hand to be able to craft an aesthetic. If I keep the same resonance that I have in my voice over here, coming down into this voice, hello, 1, 2, it doesn't quite hit the same as if I darken out a little bit to my ear. So try noodling around with those different dials until you hit something that's just like, yes, then stay in it. But remember, keep bouncy, keep an eye on your floor, and listen back is going to be the main thing. Lower kind of huskier voices can be tricky, but as long as you keep on listening back, you should be fine. And don't forget those highs, they're still useful. One final thing I'll say on lower voices is this is where, again, having a target voice, playing it through a pitch tracker or something like that to see exactly what's going on is tremendously helpful. You'll be surprised at how high some of these low voices still go, so keep that all in mind. Thank you for your question. Alrighty, what I'd like to do next is, CMTR, can you come up on stage, please? I would like to go through just a little bit of a brief exercise with you to see, is it MT that is the problem, or is there something else going on, please? So with this one, with an eye and a time, I'm going to keep this one to be a little bit shorter than our next volunteer, just because, we're running out of time. So I'm going to put about 5 minutes on the clock. We're going to see how far we can get with this stuff here. So thank you for coming on stage. And what I'd like you to do, please, is again, get into your voice with whatever warm-up technique or reset you would like to, and then read for me, please, from When the Sunlight Strikes all the way to Beyond the Horizon when you're ready.
When the sunlight strikes rainbows in the air, they act as a prism and form a rainbow. The rainbow is a division of white light into many beautiful colors. These take the shape of a long round arch, with its path high above and its two ends apparently beyond the horizon.
Well done. Thank you so much. So I would agree with your friends. I would say that a lot of this voice, I think too much is coming into this M2. M2 is signified by this kind of fluty aesthetic. It feels like it's difficult to get loud with it, and it feels kind of like hollow or Mickey Mousey sometimes. I'm liking the pitches that you're hitting, but I feel as though a lot of them I was matching when you're doing that, and I think you should be able to hit them in M1 as well. But a big part of this for me is starting to change the ratios. There's nothing wrong at all with M2. It's just that if we have too much of it, then it can start to degrade the authenticity of the voice. So what I'd like to see with you is your hearing, first of all, to make sure that you can tell the difference in someone else's voice. Is it M2 or is it M1? M1 and M2 have a big crossover of pitches. If we take a look at, again, high and low over here, your M1 in pink, this is going to be like your M1, and then M2 in blue, something like that. You can go much higher, and one can go lower, but there's still this little crossover threshold where we can use both in the same time. Ideally, we want this to be maybe about 175, depending on the person, up to maybe about 260. But again, your mileage may vary depending on your physiology. Okay. So let's try this out and see if you can hear the difference between these two different things. I'm going to make this note here, and then I want you to tell me which one is M1 and which one is M2. Have a little listen here.
M1 to M2, I think.
Absolutely correct. Good. Let's do a few more. Hello. Hello.
M2 to 1.
Correct. Good work. Good work. Hello. Hello.
I want to say both for M1.
One. The first one was M2. Hello. One,
Okay.
2, 3. Hello. 1, 2, 3. It gets harder though. Let's do one more of these here. Hi. How are you? Hi. How are you? A little bit more subtle.
I'm not sure.
Let me make it a
I
little bit
think
more
the M.
obvious. Oh,
Okay.
sorry. Go ahead. Have a stab.
Nope. Nope. Mhm.
Okay. Let me do it one more time. Hi. How are you? Hi. How are you?
M2 to M1.
Other way around, M1 to M2.
Other way.
But they can
Okay.
get quite together, but all good. The majority of them you got right. Okay, so what I would like to do with you next is to see if we can go to the same note and have you start to alternate between one and the other. Ultimately, I think that we want it to be, 80% of your voice in M1, 20% in M2. And for me at the minute, I felt that 95% of your voice was in M2, So what I want to do here is see your pitch matching. I want you to try and stay in your M1. We're going to take a nice soft sound as we did earlier today. I'm going to glide up to this note here. Have a listen for me. Try that, please.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful work. Okay, here's the next one. Sing in M1.
Mm-hmm.
Good work. Next one. Again, M1.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful work. Awesome. Now let's go to some of these notes in M2. We're going to start off, and we're going to glide it down. Here's the first one. We're going to start off even higher, right in Mickey Mouse land. That's what I'm looking for. Good. Now we're going to go a little bit lower. Staying in Mickey Mouse M2E voice. Go for it. Oh no, we're out of time. I want to go just a little bit longer. Let's try this one more time just to kind of bring this to an end. I feel like a lot of people will have a similar sort of problem with this stuff here, and I think it's so important. I never really get a chance to look at this. So let's try this. With your M2, I want you to go up and down until you feel you're at about the bottom of your M2. Like that, perhaps. Give it a go when you're ready. Ooh, I feel like we're getting about there. Hello, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, about F sharp 3, I felt we were going. Good. All right, let's try this. We're going to go to a G sharp 3 in your M2. Try that for me. Good work. Okay, awesome. So the news is good. I'm finding that you've got pretty flexible range. I mean, you're able to go all the way up to a B3 in your M1. Your hearing was good. I didn't feel that you were getting confused while you were practicing these different exercises. And I think from my assessment, I'm pretty confident that it's not a problem of perception, which it often can be with this sort of thing, but instead it's just a habit and a choice. So what I want to do is we're going to start to imagine that with our voice, while we kind of reconstruct it, this is going to be quite a drastic change in how it feels and functions, okay? We're going to have a warm-up section to get you nice and ready, make sure that you're in the right sort of thing, and then we're going to go into voice. And I want this sort of practice to be the bread and butter of your active practice for the next, 2-3 weeks. I would say at least 10-15 minutes a day of trying this here. So the warm-up, the purpose of this, the reset, is to be able to make sure to confirm to yourself that you are indeed in M1. Then we can kind of bridge that into this more natural, flowy speech. So to do this, let's take a little bit of a look here. And we're going to go back to this rainbow passage over here. Okey-doke. And what I would like you to do is to glide upwards this time. The note that we're going to use is not going to be as high as some of the ones we went to before, but we're going to go to an F sharp 3. Can you give me a little one of these? We're going to go. And your M1 gliding up, keeping it soft though. When you're ready, take it away, please. Beautiful work. Okay, we're going to do that again. We're going to go a little bit higher up though, because that felt pretty easy breezy. G sharp 3 this time. Take it away when you're ready. Good. Okay, we're going to do that again. And then we're going to go into when the sunlight strikes. Just those first 4 words. When the sunlight strikes. Take it away when you're ready.
When the sunlight strikes.
Right. So you went up, down to when the sunlight strikes. We went up to the note and then it fell. Let's try again and keep that note exactly where you had it before. Again, it'll sound like this. When the sunlight strikes. Take your time. Chant these words. Find balance in them. When you're ready, go for it.
When the sunlight strikes.
That's better, absolutely. Now, let's try and alter your vocal weight a little bit here. You are hitting these notes, but it's a little bit too heavy for me. So I want to see if we can go for a bit of a spectrum from heavy to softer with the word when. When. All right, so softening it out, reducing that getting more into, keep peppy. Okay, when you're ready, give it a go.
When.
Something happened there as we went 1, softer, 2, and then we had so much more air coming through all of a sudden on numbers 3 and 4. Try that again without feeling like you have to push your way into the softness, okay? I just want you to back off on that that pressiness without pushing more air through again. Hopefully it'll sound like this. When. Finding a place of balance. When you're ready, go for it again.
When.
Almost. Now, I still felt that there was a little bit too much buzz, and I think that part of this might be coming from some mic distortion. Can you please try turning your output volume down to maybe like 60 for me or 70?
Let's see here. Output's at 65.
Okay, it might not be that then. Let's maybe take it down to 50, and just because I feel there's a little bit of distortion, or if you can move away from your mic just slightly, if you adjust your headset, and we're going to try this one more time. So, what I heard there was when. There's still quite a bit of weight and edge to it. So this time, on the last one, okay, we're going to go through 5 different whens. On the last one, I do want you to go into that super breathy one. It's going to sound like this. When. All right, try that when you're ready. Okay, let's out of curiosity try this a little bit lower. We're still too heavy. I hope that by introducing that breathy one at the end, it might kind of strike us into a middle point to where we wanted to get to, but we didn't quite get there. So now we're going to take the pitch down to an E3. When. I'm going to get a little bit quieter as well as you go down this one. When you're ready, give it a go.
When.
So what we have here is that in your kind of spectrum of vocal weight, currently we aren't able to quite get to where I wanted to. And I believe that this problem of this inability to access this optimal configuration is the reason why you're relying on your M2, because it's sounding softer, it's sounding more like what we want, but fundamentally, even if we get a really good M2, it's not going to hit the things that we want to in the long term with your voice, you know? So with this one here, if we have heavy on the right side, if we have light on the left side here, we're able to go to maybe perhaps here. This territory here, to be able to get this aesthetic, you're currently which is a red herring. When we breathe a lot of air through it, it doesn't really adjust our vocal weight as much as it just overblows through. And in fact, that's something that can, if you sustain that, really dry you out and get you quite uncomfortable. So I don't want you to practice getting really breathy, but what I want you to do is to explore vocal weight. There are loads of resources out there for it. Play around with it. Try and get into that space. And just out of curiosity, can you do the exercise with me where we have the little puppy dog and we go, please?
Aww.
Okay, even softer. I want the beginning of your note to be like a violin. It's going to swell in. Rather than it's not going to hit. Nice and soft. Try it one more time.
Aww.
That's it. That's where you want to go. Great. Do that again. One more time.
Aww.
Beautiful. Now give me a when with that. When.
When.
Beautiful. Let's do that a little bit higher up. When.
When.
That's where you want to be. Perfect. We found it. Great work. So keep playing with that. Get back to it. Get really familiar with it. Throw the M2 in the garbage for now, but that's where you've got to go, is to explore that. Thank you so much. I'm sorry we spent a little bit more time on that, but it's a really good problem, and I think that a lot of us have it, so I want to thank you so much. With an eye on the time, I'm a little bit over, so I'm not going to be able to take any questions, but if we all give CMDR a big round of applause, please. You nailed that one. Thank you so much. Oh, my arms. Great work. Really, really, really good work. Awesome. Alrighty, everyone. I'm going to have to swiftly wrap up. I want to thank you all so much for joining me again today. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time, but until then, we'll have Jess's classes on as well. Check the notices for that, and Savvy's class next Sunday as well. But apart from that, thank you all so much for spending some of your Sunday with me. You can do this. Keep up with it. We'll get there together. Thank you so much indeed. Goodbye.
Round of applause for Rachel.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.